Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from Earth 828 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm the nerd with the mouth, David.
Alliance Assemble.
Assemble.
Volume 269, and we've got an animated miniseries to talk about tonight, and we've got a lot of set leaks to talk about. Man, Marvel, you may have not released this, but you didn't necessarily try to hide anything with it, and you're not necessarily trying to strike anyone down. So I'm thinking that, one would call this a controlled leak at that point.
Yes, I think that they are very much aware that there are people sitting there on set with their telescopic lens, and they are not doing anything to stop it.
Yeah, so we've got Eyes of Wakanda to talk about. All 4 episodes of the miniseries dropped on last Friday, and then we're going to talk about all these lovely, the announcement video where our first eyes in the suit. Many then looks at the suit, some HD photos, and our first full look at John Bernthal in his full Punisher garb for the Punisher special. So we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about tonight. So how has been your week, David?
My week has been busy, but not bad. I go in tomorrow to see if I'm going to have surgery on my right arm or not. That's not going to stop me from being a part of the show. That just means that you might be seeing me with the sling on for a couple of occasions and doing all of my typing with my left hand like I normally do when I'm at work.
Because he does it for you the people. Because he loves and cares about you.
So other than that, had my oldest kid picked up his schedule in his packet for 6th grade, and now I'm feeling old, so I went and got a haircut, so I didn't see as many grays.
Yeah, I got my fresh cut last Friday. We welcome back staff this week. Lots of exciting times to see everyone. And had open house tonight for my school, then went to my kids' open house. So I'm very tired. And school starts Monday. But it's been a good week. But yeah, so since we've got a kind of a chonky show to talk about, since we've got to talk about 4 episodes and all these set photos, and then continue on, I've got some interesting fact or fictions for you.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Yep, and we got some good listener questions. So before we get into that, let's go through all the network plugs out of the way. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 6 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To check out the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Networks, when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. Our dollar tier is our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows, including 2 shows we got from Marvel Alliance. We've got We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga MCU Rewatch, where we watched all the movies in the Infinity Saga in chronological order and gave our thoughts and feelings about it. And then we have Tales from the House of X, where we rewatch our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. And we are in the middle of the Baxter broadcast, the Fantastic Four retro film reviews. We've got 2 episodes that have dropped on the Patreon feeds. Fantastic Four, the unreleased 1994 film from Roger Corman, and then Fantastic Four from 2005. And we've already, as we said, recorded the Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer from 2007. That will drop on August 25th. So we got a few weeks to wait for that on patrons. And then, as I keep on plugging, Fan Four Stick is coming. It is coming. It'll happen. It's going to happen, 2 weeks, David? We record that?
Yep, and I am excited to hear your raw, visceral reactions.
I'm about to say, if you said you're excited to see this movie, this might be there will definitely be. I'm looking forward in the sense of, man, how many different ways can I say, man, I'm so happy I waited this long. But yes, we've also got the DC Alliance guys doing their DC films through the years. We've got Joe doing his Multiverse Minutes with his Disney Dives on the 1st and 15th every month, dropping a new episode of his animated journey through the Disney classics in chronological order. And we want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. But if you're not a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA Network so you get that all the lovely shows. And last, but certainly not least, I would say we are the show is sponsored by Organic Price Books. However, we are no longer sponsored by Organic Price Books. Organic Price Books has gone through a rebranding. We now welcome Panel Bound Comics. Yes, Organic Price Books have decided to change their name. If you've been paying attention lately in the last 6 months or so, we've been working with a lot of times behind the scenes of getting a lot of exclusive connections with publishers for exclusive covers, exclusive deals, things like that. So the Organic Price Books name from JP was kind of a placeholder for many years. It just kind of worked. And when you got lots of people saying, "Hey, do you sell health books?" No. So we wanted to kind of rebrand at that point. So JP came up with the new name, Panel Bound Comics. Our codes still work. You can use the code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order, or you can use the code MarvelGUASIT to get 5% off when you order 4 or more books together. But it's a lot sleeker. The webpage is really great. My buddy Jake from Brave and the Boys is their marketing manager, and he's done a really solid job with this site. So take a look at it. Go to it. We're very, very proud of it at that point, and use those codes because it lets them know that you are a listener to the show. So check out Panel Bound Comics, formerly OPB. So yeah, it's been they premiered that. The site went live with the rebranding on Sunday. So very excited about it. A lot of positive stuff coming from that.
Yeah.
So, but we need to promote something. Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we celebrate Geekverse's 10-year anniversary. So there will be streaming for at least 10 hours. I say at least because if you're a member of the Patreon, or if you want to be a member of the Patreon, the money you pledge into the Patreon will increase the time they spend on it, including stretch goals for if they increase it to a certain amount. So I believe if you check out the socials, they've kind of premiered exactly what each kind of stretch goal is. So, but they've got, we've got some tag team matches going on. We've got some trivia with the patrons. They've got a lot of different stuff for that. So again, we want to celebrate Geekverse because without Geekverse, the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So congratulations, guys, over at Geekverse. We're proud of you. We're happy to be a part of the Geekverse family. And we want to thank you again for keeping us around all these years.
Yeah, they've been doing a bang-up job for the last 10 years. I'm excited about some of the stuff that they've got going on, and they've released some of the lineup already of what they have planned, plus more. Again, it all depends on what goes on with the Patreons, how people want to support and push them further, and I'm excited to see exactly how this looks.
Yep, so, all right, we'll check that out this Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So excited to watch that. I'll probably be able to check out a couple of the feeds at that point. So, all right. So, main topic of today is we are breaking down the 4 episodes of Eyes of Wakanda. So, all 4 episodes dropped on last Friday. It's a mini-series brought to you by, obviously, executive produced by Ryan Coogler. Let's talk about kind of the episodes as a whole. So, what did you think of Eyes of Wakanda?
Every episode was visually stunning. I think that there were some moments in a lot of the episodes where I was legitimately wowed at some of the things that they pulled off. The animation choreography in these fight scenes, especially in episode 3 for sure, is just spot on. And the way that they ended this series, tying it all together, plus tying the MCU as a whole, I loved that little nod from the moment where they kind of start mentioning it, and then you get the final thing, which we'll talk about more in depth. I was just like, I love everything about this. Again, it's not the best animated project that we've seen from Marvel, certainly nowhere near the worst. It was but it's good, it's fun, and the fact that it's 4 episodes and they're slated that it says that they're about 25 minutes apiece. It's more like about 19 minutes apiece for each, so you can consume all of this in one day easily and just enjoy.
Yeah, I would agree with you wholeheartedly on the animation style. I've seen it used in different ways, but this is done very well. The character mock-ups, the voice cast was great, and what's great about this, one can easily call this an anthology because each episode necessarily is its own kind of little bottle. However, there are little winks and nods and continuations from the previous one, and I like that. I think that's interesting. And when the idea of looking at the history of a civilization that's is that the most advanced of the world that's been hidden all these years, we'll always think like, how did they exist? Like, how did they contain themselves? How did this stop these secrets from getting out? So that I always like those moments, like, where were they in this case? Like we've seen episodes on the battle of the Trojan War and the fall of Troy, and we get different things of different areas of the world that they happen to kind of go into. So, and then the big kind of payoff in the sense of, oh, so that's how and the reason this happened. And one can call it retconning and things like that. Well, it's not necessarily calling a retcon. It's putting an explanation on there to why it could happen. And one could say, well, that's kind of a stretch. I was like, man, welcome to comics. It's let's not take it too seriously now.
I looked at it more as world expansion rather than retconning because I mean where it led, that still happens, but you're giving an expanded lore to how we got this, why it is so important.
Yep, and it puts it also in a kind of an interesting new light. I was hoping, I wouldn't say hoping, but I was kind of pining when we get to that 4th episode they were going to do something I was kind of excited for. It didn't go in that direction, and I'm not disappointed by it. I think I'm only disappointed that they didn't do an episode on really far-flung future stuff. So, but we'll talk about that then. So, but yeah, let us, if you have not watched, we'll take our first ad break now, so that way we can kind of get through the episodes a little quick. So if you have not seen Eyes of Wakanda, stop, watch them, come on back, or watch episode by episode as you join us. But we're going to take our first ad break. So as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. It can be a bit loud, so give that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, so the first episode, Into the Lion's Den. Now, this was a very interesting episode, and I'm still struggling in my mind how I rank these, but this was a heck of an episode because of what it was looking at and how it was dealing with it. You got kind of two kind of what looks at two competing stories in the sense that they come crashing together, and we're in Crete in the year 1260 BC. The peaceful island that they're looking at is quickly overtaken by raiders led by men wearing a lion mask and wielding technology with a familiar purple glow. The lion and his soldiers lay waste to the warriors of Crete and bring the people on board their ships. Meanwhile, we see one of the women of Crete trying to get a better look before she is also taken by the lion soldiers. On one of the ships, the lion soldiers try to welcome their captive audience to join, join the lion and his people. One of the men resists and is brought into a cell to be branded and tortured. The mystery woman from the earlier cowers before being selected by a guard to be brought to that same cell. Inside, though, she stands strong and refuses to give herself to the lion. So that's an interesting kind of beginning. So we know either they've stolen Wakandan tech or they're from Wakanda.
Yeah, and this was a great kickoff to this, and everything about the lion, his imposing nature, and the moments when he spoke, like that voice like coming out of there like really got me. I had to run to IMDb to look who it was, and it was Cress Williams, who DC fans will know as Black Lightning, and I was just like, oh man, but just the gravity in it. And I liked, especially with this episode, touching on, and it is touched on in both Black Panther films, that once people get outside of Wakanda, they see not only Wakanda but the world itself in a different view. And that's kind of what happens with the Lion. Like he gets out there and he starts seeing, okay, this is what the world has to offer. Some are corrupted by it. Some become more in love with the way that home is. Okay, we don't have the corruption and the politics that go on in everyday society. I like our home. I like the fact that we take care of our people. And others are like, man, there's so much freedom here, and we are so advanced, and we should be leading and ruling. And it's I love just everything that he brought to this character and that commanding presence of the Lion.
So then we flash back to 6 weeks earlier in Wakanda. Noni of the Merchant Tribe, the woman we saw in Creep, is summoned by Akeya and the leader of the Dora Milaje. It's revealed that Noni is a former Dora, but she was never very good at following orders. And Akeya explains that a former member of the Royal Guard stole Wakanda technology and deserted the Wakanda and is now building his own kingdom. And she says that they have sent soldiers after him, but every single one of them was trained by the Lion, and none of them have returned. And because Noni was expelled from the Dora and never met the Lion, he would never see her coming. Noni reluctantly accepts the task of bringing the Lion back to Wakanda. And the thing is, if she is successful, she gets to rejoin the Dora. Now, I kind of thought that was interesting just because, like, she was passed out because she wasn't following orders. It's interesting just because even in this little bit, I say, does she really want to come back? You know, it just never struck me, even in this short amount of time, like, I think you're misunderstanding in the sense of, like, what she's doing. I get where they're coming from, but, like, offering her the chance to go join the Dora when she said, yeah, I'll do it, it just didn't seem like she was that excited to. But nor was she a prisoner, so they weren't really holding anything over her either.
Yeah, it did give this feeling that Wakanda and the people in charge of Wakanda view their structure a lot more regal and upstanding than anyone else would. So they looked at this as, we're doing you a favor. Like you didn't make it on your own, but we're giving you a chance to join our incredible ranks that you couldn't do on your own. You just have to complete this one test. While, if I'm Noni, I'm like, yeah, I didn't do it, not because I wasn't good enough, just like your style and my style just don't work together.
Yeah. And so back on the ship, Noni makes short work of the guards. Big surprise, again, trained by the Dora, who put her in a cell, but they refuse to give her any information. And they give her, Noni gives her weapons to the other prisoners and makes her way outside. She sees the Lion's fleet of ships as they link themselves together, forming a sort of city on the sea. Noni sneaks past the several guards before eventually working her way into a room where some of the women are captured on Crete are being given their orders. A woman tries to fight back, but one of the Lion's top soldiers threatens her. Noni intervenes and stops the soldier, but the alarm is sounded and a huge fight begins. Now, I say this is where this series does so well, in the choreography and the beautiful capturing of the pretty much every single one of these episodes that has a fight sequence. It is done so well and so beautifully.
Yeah. It's, again, the animation, the choreography with this is just amazing.
So as Noni gives chase at that point, she eventually takes out Lion's top guards. The Lion gears up for his own fight. I love the kind of like, kind of the a la Batman putting on the cape and cowl at that point. The Lion sees Noni kill his last soldiers and welcomes her up to his chamber. He explains to her that she is the first Wakandan to come for him, or has made it as far as she did, that he did not train himself. He tries to explain to her that the world outside of Wakanda is free, and that he learned that when he was the first sent out by Wakanda as one of the Hatut Zazi, or the War Dogs. We have seen the War Dogs in the comics and the MCU, and with Hunter and Nakia are the two most significant examples we've seen before. He offers her a place in his kingdom, free of the path set for her by the Wakanda. Noni refuses, and a huge fight ensues. This is rather interesting because as soon as I started hearing this, I said, this is Killmonger. This is Killmonger saying, except for this is Killmonger, but without, you know, the key part of it being we need to spread this technology to the world. You know,
Yeah.
he considers being in Wakanda and following the things being bound in a new type of, I guarantee he would say enslaved at that point. It's because he uses the word, it's free, it's free, free. So he feels bound by Wakanda, but going out there is freedom. So he's missing a key part of what makes Killmonger a more seductive antagonist.
Yeah, he makes a quote where he says that they take a risk when they send people like you and me out into the world. They see it for what it is. And that is just, again, that's encapsulating the whole, Wakanda is more than what we've been brought up to be. And there's more to offer out there. And that just shows his whole mindset. So why he asked her, why do you follow the path that's been set out for you? Like, I freed these people from their suffering. Look what I have become on my own outside of Wakanda.
Chains are
and
coming off. Nothing's there.
yeah, you could be this too. Like, we could grow an empire if we just get rid of the old ways.
And very lengthy fight, very cool fight. Wakandan technology, vibranium, all 9 yards. It's all over the place, very well. I love especially when you have, someone like Noni trained by the Dora, how fluent, how elegant she is, her fighting style, and the line, true to his name, is brute force.
Yeah.
So it's always nice saying who will win in a fight, brute force or elegant and speed. And in this case, Noni is able to overcome it, despite a couple of close calls. And so, and she does use the technology against him. So the Lion eventually sits back on his throne, bleeding from his chest, and starts a vibranium-powered explosion in an effort to eliminate both himself and Noni. She escapes just in time, leaping from his ship into the ocean. And she does fail to retrieve the Lion's tech as he watches it fall to the bottom of the ocean. She does, however, manage to obtain his mask. Now, this is definitely not the same thing that is found in the 4th episode. I think this is just one of those things. It didn't look exactly the same. It didn't look like the axe.
No, it didn't. It looked like, okay, they do references in episode 4, but just more as an anchor point to what's going on. But it doesn't have the significance because she lost the artifact that she was going for. Yes, she stopped the Lion, but that artifact sank to the bottom.
Yeah. So back in Wakanda, Noni tells Akeya that she failed because she did not bring the Lion home or recover stolen tech. Akeya informs her that she eliminated the threat against Wakanda, and this was a test and she said she's passed it to be back with the door. And she's like, no, you said it yourself. I don't like following the rules, but I found a new place. Instead, she wishes to become a war dog. Now, also forgot to mention, during the fight, she did lose her eye, or at least severely damage her eye against the fight with the Lion. But I definitely didn't think the Lion was a bad villain. It was just, again, I just got Killmonger vibes, which I think was the point.
Yeah.
But even as you brought up earlier, that is the fear of sending out people into Wakanda, as they say, as a war dog or otherwise, that they become tempted from the outside world in either trying to not come back or bring the corruption back into Wakanda. And I kind of equate it to, not exactly the same, but, when you have the Amish in Rumspringa, very, in the sense of they're not going out trying to do espionage or military takeovers or things like that. But, the idea of going out into the real world to see exactly what the real world offers outside of your bubble. And you have a choice whether to come back and go back to the ways or never return.
Yeah. So, and I guess that, like he says, that's a risk that they take when sending people out there, is how many are going to continue their mission and do things, or how many are going to get a taste of life while trying to complete their mission, and this becomes their new normal.
So I thought strong introduction, explores a time and a story that's new to anyone from Marvel, including us, in the sense of like seeing this time period. It ties just enough back to the lore of Wakanda to feel like it was a piece of a larger story, and that combined with a unique art style and visually impressive action sequences, I think was a great way to kind of open up an episode. I think it was a good episode of. It wasn't a amazing first episode, but it was a very good first episode setting up what this series is going to be about.
Yeah, great, good introduction, good setting the tone, setting the action, having the beautiful moments. I mean, the fight, the choreography of the fight, like when they go up on the hanging curtains and they're doing all the acrobatics again. This is a here's where we're going. Here's the power of our animation, and it's a good setup episode that is very visually stunning.
Yep. So episode 2 is entitled Legends and Lies. So it opens on the Trojan War with a group of Greek soldiers attacking Troy. Odysseus explains to one of the soldiers that his plan is to create a distraction at the city's front gate, while Achilles leads another team over the wall. And once inside, Achilles leaps into action while Memnon, who appears to be a close friend of Achilles, looks through a telescope with a purple glow, so that's coming from Wakanda. After he spots a necklace around his neck of the Helen of Troy, he says for himself, for Wakanda, because it appears this episode is going to be focusing on the role Wakanda played in the Trojan War, and what his mission is to acquire that necklace. So Achilles and Memnon and their men are attacked by the Trojan guards, and Odysseus calls for retreat. So they were able to get over the wall. They almost came close. However, the rashness at that point, they were having to retreat, and so Achilles' men had to reluctantly retreat, but not before Memnon saves Achilles, taking an arrow in the hand in the process, hinting at the possibility of Achilles' downfall that leads to it. So the men escape despite Achilles being very upset about that. So what'd you feel about that opening and kind of establishing it in even more of an historical context?
It was a cool opening, some cool like wartime fight scenes. I like the setup of okay, we're getting the expansion of the lore of Troy and Odysseus and things like that. So we're getting more a different look of the Trojan War, and there were some times with Achilles where arrows would come at him and they would keep cutting to his feet, and you would see the arrows land around his feet, and I was like, okay, I see what you're doing here with the foreshadowing of this is how you take out Achilles per the legend of him. But yeah, it was a good opening, good introduction to Memnon and Achilles, who are our main two focus of this episode.
So, and I love it. The next sequence, they kind of get this kind of like moment where
Rose by the fire.
Yeah, Rose, exactly. He uses a spray to clearly laced with vibranium to heal his hand. He's not going to advertise that. So later he sits with Achilles and they talk about the war. Memnon reveals that he was a wanderer, and when he joined Achilles' cause, though we know what he's really been, he's really a war dog. Their conversation is interrupted by Pharaoh, who warns Achilles not to trust an outsider like Memnon, posing that he might be a Trojan spy. Achilles dismisses the theory. He's not a Trojan spy. He has nothing wanting to do with Trojan and Troy. So Odysseus comes in and proposes that they get the Trojans to invite them in by presenting him with a gift. And yes, we are really getting a Marvel retelling of the Trojan horse.
Sure.
So, go ahead.
As much as I love the little nod to the Trojan horse, my favorite scene actually comes right after this, where we get I would say, the now first MCU canon version of texting.
Yeah, exactly. So he sneaks away from the conversation. Memnon sneaks away and sends a message with this very interesting tech, and you're wondering, how's this getting it somewhere? But apparently it is. He informs him that he's found the artifact he's after and will have it soon. A reply tells them to not return without it, and he simply answers for Wakanda. So the next day, Achilles and Memnon watch the Trojan horses being built. They discuss the eventual peace that will come after. Achilles tells Memnon that he will be welcome in Greece after the war, and he offers him a necklace his mother gave to him, which Memnon reluctantly accepts because Memnon knows he achieves his mission goal, he ain't coming back.
Yeah, it's done for him. He's got a goal. He's going to do it, and he's out after that.
Yeah. So that night, Achilles, Memnon, and a group of soldiers are welcomed into the gates of Troy, hiding out in the Trojan horse. Very tight quarters in there. And later, they sneak out and attack, wiping out the unsuspecting soldiers one by one. And eventually, though, one manages to sound the alarm, and the huge fight begins. But as Achilles is swarmed by soldiers, he calls for Memnon, but he sees him running away to carry out his own mission, so that's not going to make him that happy. Memnon climbs his way out of the city, where he confronts Helen in Paris. He takes the necklace from Helen, saying that he spent 9 years away from his home trying to recover it. He then helps Helen in Paris escape right as Achilles arrives. Achilles accuses him being a Trojan spy, because, yeah, that's not a good look at that point. And Memnon pleads with him, but he refuses to tell about the Wakandas because Achilles says you've been operating, with some kind of secret mission. He won't admit why, and Achilles just gets angry, and the two have a huge slobber knocker of a fight.
Yeah, and you've got Achilles going toe to toe, but Memnon's got a little bit of an advantage because he's got that Wakanda tech with him. So he's throwing them hands with that Wakandan gauntlet.
Yeah, and it was interesting in the sense of how Achilles was thought of as the best fighter of his generation, his age. So, but still, it was still impressive for him to go toe to toe with Memnon, who looks very physically imposing.
Yeah, Memnon's a big guy, and then you saw a lot of good swordplay with Achilles, the way that he was handling his weapon and holding his own. I mean, it was some good stuff. If Memnon hadn't had that vibranium gauntlet on his arm, then I don't know if he would have been able to stack toe to toe, because at one point he got set on fire and Achilles is still throwing those hands.
Yep. So Memnon drops the necklace and Achilles strikes it, releasing a surge of purple energy. Achilles' new goal is to claim that power for Greece, and Memnon reveals more Wakanda technology in his weapon, and they fight on. Memnon eventually wins the fight by slicing Achilles' tendon. Fittingly. Achilles continues to try to fight, even though Memnon is forced to kill his friend. Because remember, the message that said, get this done no matter the cost. And so even back then, Memnon knew this was possibly a real possibility. So he lays him down in the little pool of water, puts the coins over for the ferrymen, and then we are back in Wakanda 6 months later, and we see Memnon finally get back home. We learn that his real name is Bakai, and that Noni, much older, and we know it's Noni because of the eye patch, is now the director of the War Dogs. And Bakai confesses that even though he is finally home, he has never felt more alone, expressing regret for killing Achilles. He pleads with Noni to be sent back out in the field. She grants him his wish, but warns that he must be certain that what he is searching for. Bakai closes his fist around the necklace given to him by Achilles as the episode comes to a close. So what did you think about that revelation with Noni? I mean, see her in her younger years. Now she's in charge of the War Dogs.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, but I'm guessing that, what we see from episode 4 now going back makes it seem like, okay, she said she still had a mission to do and she wanted to go back out in the world. So she went out, she did her thing. She probably went back for that lost artifact that was in the water, came back home a hero, and then took her place within the Dora Milaje and rose up the ranks. And now she is the director.
Yep, director of the War Dogs, got to go for it. So yeah, good episode all in all. All right, so heading into episode 3, Lost and Found. So what'd you think about this? The episode kind of takes more of a humorous tone to it.
This episode has some of the funniest moments of this 4-part series, but also, in my opinion, the best fight scene. of this. So I was very much enthralled. I mean, we kind of got spoiled on what a version of what character would be making an appearance, and they did not disappoint when it came to the fight because of that.
Yep. So the episode opens in China and 1400 AD. We see a blizzard hitting the beautiful mountaintop city. Inside one of the buildings, we see a man sneak out of the bed away from a woman who apparently remains asleep. The man, whose name we learn is Basha, sneaks into the temple and attempts to steal a piece of vibranium from a dragon statue. Now, again, always remember the war dogs are meant to reacquire stolen vibranium or Wakandan tech. And it appears that Basha in this episode is another war dog, and when he fails to remove the vibranium, he decides to just take the statue and try to pass it off that, hiding it underneath his clothing. He does make an escape despite guards trying to take him down, and he escapes through a, buried in the snow Wakandan ship. And on his way home, he contacts Captain Ebo of the War Dogs, who admits they thought he was dead. But Ebo tells Basha that the city was protected by a great power, and they assume the dragon curse got him. Basha assures him that he is fine and that the mission went off without any complications. Just running away from, his pursuers, right?
Yeah, this was interesting. Two things stuck out with me, and this was one of those, okay, you're going to have to not dive in too deep and overthink things. Because the first thing I thought was, if he is playing a lost wanderer who's wandered into this city, I mean, he is speaking some fluent Chinese. And then no one is noticing in the 1400s this airship, this advanced technology just
Never.
flying through the air. I mean, to me, that would freak people out.
Yeah, you would think, but not here. So Basha returns to Wakanda, where he's greeted by Ebo, who still feels like he is being he's not being given the whole story. Basha shrugs him off, and Ebo scolds him for taking the whole statue and not just vibranium. I agree, it's kind of a waste. But again, couldn't get it done. So they go together to meet with the High Councilman, Rakim, to discuss his mission. Rakim expresses regret that Basha stole the whole statue and dismisses Ebo from the conversation. Meanwhile, another war dog inspects Basha's ship and finds an abnormality. When she inspects it, she is ambushed by someone or something and pulled from the ship. So we have a stowaway there that is in Wakanda, uninvited. Nothing could possibly go wrong with that, right?
Yeah, no, not at all. Just, and again, you've got this advanced technology. You didn't realize that you had something extra on your ship. It wasn't too heavy. Again, I wonder what the technology was like at this point. And also from the person who was inspecting the ship, you didn't call for backup before you decided to approach the ship. Just,
No, that'd be too
I got
easy.
questions.
So yeah, in a room full of artifacts, Basha inspects the lion's mask from the first episode, so we get the callback there. As Rakim continues to scold him, they're entered by a call from someone informing Basha that there was an issue with the ship after the inspector is not responding. Basha runs off to investigate the situation. Ebo makes his way to Basha's ship, but he runs into a mysterious person on the way. Who does he run into?
And this is our nice look at the Immortal Iron Fist, or a version of the Immortal Iron Fist, complete with the yellow hood over the eyes. And yeah, it's looking nice. It's got the yellow and green wrapped up in a kimono. You could tell, again, the style of its dress is truer to the 1400s rather than it is of the Iron Fist that we know of Danny Rand. But yeah, and this Iron Fist got some hands.
Yes, he does. Excuse me. She's got some hands. We do find out that the Iron Fist in this one is the woman that we saw in bed with Basha. And you and I have been claiming for a Colleen Wing Iron Fist show, or her taking officially the title. So this is kind of proof of concept, right?
Yeah. For further closer to me getting Colleen Wing back in the MCU. Let's do this.
And so some fights ensues with that. So Ebo and Basha run into each other, and Ebo scolds him for more so bringing a curse onto Wakanda. And they start trying to talk together, and they see the woman trying to explain what happens. And Rakim, they decide to work together to find the intruder themselves so that they can keep themselves out of trouble. However, Ebo triggers an alarm in the arsenal to draw Rakim's soldiers, Rakim guards there as a distraction. Meanwhile, Iron Fist searches for the statue. Instead, Basha finds them, and they go to a brief fight before Iron Fist's mask comes off. And like I said, the revelation is that it is Jor-Ani, who he was found sleeping with in the episode earlier. Now, when Jor-Ani tells him that she was there to take the statue back, he argues that it was stolen from them because of the vibranium, and tells her his people won't let her leave alive. But also lets slip that the artifacts gallery is and she runs off to get the statue. Basha follows, and they have a second great fight. And Jor-Ani reaches the artifact gallery and blasts her way using her powers. And the Iron Fist is the title given to the most skilled warrior of Kunlun and the mystical city that more than likely they were probably in or adjacent to. And it explains like how she got the powers from defeating the mythical dragon. On top of being one of the most skilled martial artists in the world, the Iron Fist is a granted mythical energy that can be used in many ways, though it's most typical for punching. You know, I thought the helmet for this was really cool. It was a cool way to do it instead of just a simple, yellow
Durag.
Yeah.
I very much liked everything about Jor-Ani in this. There was a line when Basha says, this was stolen from Wakanda over 1,000 years ago, and Jor-Ani responds back and says, and in those 1,000 years, this has become more important to us than it ever has to you. And I was like, man, you don't realize that sometimes with these art pieces and artifacts and things like that, what has become a symbol to someone or a piece to someone else. I also did like the comedic line when they were arguing back and forth over who seduced who.
Yeah. But when they kind of understand and go back and forth with the statue and this, that, and the other, Jor-Ani reaches for the statue, despite Basha and Ebo protesting as she charges her fist and then gently removes the vibranium tongue from the statue, because that's all they wanted. She didn't want the vibranium. She just wanted the statue back. And she gives it to Basha and tells him all he had to do was tell her the truth, and she would have helped him in the first place, which draws frustration from Ebo, because he's been always saying Basha is too rash. Basha doesn't think through things, and this is proof of it. So Basha apologizes to both Jor-Ani and Ebo, and to their surprise, they're interrupted by Rakim, who asks them what happened in the gallery, because it's in pretty disarray. And Basha, after hiding Jor-Ani and hinting that Ebo just sell that what he's been trying to fight, lies to Rakim, and it was all a training exercise devised by Ebo. He says Ebo was the one in the mask, and he took on all the war dogs himself. And the lie works, and Rakim promotes Ebo before leaving. Basha lets Jor-Ani out of the room. She's not too happy, because why would she be? And she snatches her mask back from Basha, and Ebo offers a way for him to sneak back to their ship, or her ship, and sneak off, and the episode comes to a close. So as we said, definitely humor, but the highlight is bringing in this new Iron Fist.
Yeah. Again, great episode, great action sequences. Their fight in the Hall of Artifacts was my favorite of this series, and I do like Basha at the end, bigging up Ebo to High Councilman Rakim and trying to get him a place in there for all the trouble that he's gone through, and recognizing that, Basha, it's all of your actions have led to this point. Ebo's put himself at risk. Jor-Ani is here because you're too rash. Like, you see Basha having a learning moment, and like I said, it ties the episode together very nicely.
Yeah. So, so the final episode of this series, The Last Panther. So it begins in 1896. So what's going on in 1896 in Ethiopia when we open up this episode?
So this is a time when we are having a real life rebellion. Like this was a point where in real life they were turning away the Europeans and sorry, the Italians against Ethiopia, and this was the first big stand that an African country had taken to fight back against colonization. So they use that as a backdrop to see these two war dogs who are in the middle of this conflict and on their mission to once again regain a stolen item.
So yeah, you get War Dog Kuda and the Wakandan Prince Tafari, and that's what they're going after to find this artifact. And Tafari is, I think he said, third in line for the throne.
Yes, he is
So
third in line. So that there are two other brothers before him.
yeah, and he's basically shadowing the War Dog because he wants to make him do something for himself and make himself. Not that he's pursuing to be the king, but saying like, I need something to call my own that I'm good at.
Yeah, and Tafari is shown as very, very smart and very, very, has a lot of world knowledge. So as him and Kuda are talking, he is giving him a history of everything that's going on and where places have come from. And he's off. At one point, there are bombs and stuff going on around him, and he's like, "Can I offer you some historical context to this? This comes from a place called Italy, who's trying to expand into Ethiopia." Like he's giving a full history lesson here.
Like, yeah, I don't care about that. We just got to get the artifact, which they do, and basically escape with their lives. So, Kuda and Tafari argue in the vehicle that they're trying to escape about being reckless and having a duty to return home with their families. And as Kuda explains the dangers of letting the outside world get their hands on vibranium, and Tafari sees a figure open behind them, and he yells Kuda to stop, but he is too late and launches the vehicle into the air. And so they awaken to see Tafari still unconscious, and a mystery the mysterious person is approaching the vehicle, bearing panther claws. Interesting. Kuda tells the panther to stop, but eventually has to fight. Tafari eventually joins the fight, wielding an axe that he just recovered. The panther lunges for the axe, and Kuda and Tafari get their upper hand before the panther pleads with them in Wakandan. She removes her helmet, and Kuda says he's never seen her before, and she uses her technology to show them the visions of the story that they're about to tell. So, before we get into that, that was an interesting thing that it wasn't some rogue thing. It's actually a panther, and we're going to come to find out a panther from the future.
Yeah, we're getting a Black Panther 2099 version over here. That's what I first thought when she appeared on screen. But I thought this was a cool scene. I had my moment where I'm like, all right, this is the 1800s. You're driving a very nice car in the middle of the desert, and no one is thinking, hey, this isn't right, as everyone is on horseback and walking around as a full-scale war is going on between Ethiopia and the Italians, and you're just driving through the woods in a car.
Yep. And so the panther explains that she is 500 years in the future, from the future, and Kuti and Tafari see the ruins of what was the Golden City, the capital of Wakanda. In her time, Wakanda never embraced the outside world. She explains that the alien race known as the Horde invaded Earth. Without help from Wakanda, the outside world fell. And then the Horde came for them, and Wakanda could not hold them back either. So the Horde is an alien race that is actually from Marvel Comics. There, they act as a hive mind and infect Celestials to either kill or corrupt them. They've also battled the Avengers and the Eternals on multiple occasions. The Panther also explains that her futuristic Wakanda was no match for the Horde without the help of the outside world. She says that she used her technology to jump back in time to find a moment where they could change that would alter the timeline in the direct defiance of the Avengers Endgame time travel rules. She explains that Tafari recovering the axe was most of the moment because it prevented a forgotten son of Wakanda from finding it and challenging for the throne, which would have led to the king opening Wakanda up to the outside world. And we're like, yep, I know where this is going.
They're
we
doing
are
the thing.
Yep. So we're basically saying that you can't bring that back to Wakanda because, if it does happen, it leads to this destructive future that ends basically in the world being annihilated by this alien race, the Horde. But if you put it back, Killmonger will steal it and inspire basically through his death in Black Panther. Sorry, spoiler word for a many years old movie that you should have seen by now. Realizing that, Killmonger and his idea of like we can't just close ourselves out to the outside world. We can control this stuff, but to be isolationistic has more problems, as we saw what happened. So, what did you think about that little twist of how important Killmonger finding this is?
I thought it was a good twist. I thought everything about this was good. I like how they expanded on the fact that Wakanda fell because it didn't trust the outside world, and the outside world failed because Wakanda refused to help the outside world. Like, had they not been so stubborn, which is something that, again, T'Challa was preaching in the earlier movies, and it had become a whole thing of, you guys need to work with us, come into the light, and we can all work together for the good of the world. That's exactly what happened. They didn't come into the light. They refused to help the outside world, so it fell, and then there was no one to help them. When they had the skills, they had the technology, they were just sheerly overpowered by the Horde. So I like that spot. And then, when they started talking about the lost son of Wakanda and finding it and challenging the king and opening his eyes, I'm just in there like, oh, I see where this is going, and I love every bit of this.
Yeah, so tell me about it, kind of what you're thinking of what happens next, and how does that warning affect them, and does the last Panther stick around?
So, she has a moment where she says, "Hey, I did this time jump in order to stop you guys from taking this. It needs to be returned. It needs to be returned." Kuda's like, "Nope, we got our mission." Tafari is a little bit on the fence at this point, but he's like, and Kuda's saying, "I don't know what magic you did to implant these thoughts in our minds, but we're going to complete our mission. We are war dogs, and that's what we're here for." Well, her
Go
time,
for the alien theory.
her time ends up running out, and she disappears back into her own timeline. And at that point, Tafari's like, "Yeah, so this is more than just a little bit of trickery. I think I'm going to go ahead and return this." And we see the intruder, this Queen of Wakanda from the future, is now back in her timeline, and the Horde is coming, and she's hoping that they do the right thing in order for their timelines to then mesh and for her current reality, which is the future, to not happen. So at this point, Tafari makes the call, "Hey, we're going to do this." Kuda's in there with him, and they have kind of a bonding moment as they're running for this. Kuda gets trapped in an explosion, but they're determined, hey, we got to get this back. We've got to complete the mission. You've got to put this back where it will go. We're not sure that this feature actually exists, but if it's for the best for Wakanda, we're going to do it. And this is juxtaposed with visions of the future with the Dora Milaje, with the Queen, fighting against the Horde, and they are just getting absolutely wrecked by the Horde, hoping that this is going to happen. And you even get one moment where the Queen is standing up to it and saying, "For Wakanda," and you're just hoping like, all right, are they going to make it? Is he going to make it? And I love this moment because, again, you're tying into the future, you're tying into what we've seen in previous iterations of the Black Panther, and he gets this axe returned. He yells, "Kuda's done. The axe is back. We did it." But there's no callbacks from Kuda, who is at this point presumed dead, and they're just hoping that what he's done and the risk that he's taken actually does work out.
Yeah, we get a little like, kind of animated version of how we were introduced to Eric Killmonger in the museum at that point. So, you know, I'd say this was a very unexpected and very satisfying conclusion to the short series. You know, in true What If fashion, what seemed to be an anthology story was pulled together by a time traveler in the end. Throwing some visually, as we keep saying, visually stunning action and a touch of a little bit of Marvel lore, and you've got a very successful finale. Plus, it's also pretty cool that one of the interesting, I found this out, that Disney legend Anika Noni Rose now gets to call herself a Black Panther.
Yep. So Queen Tiana from Princess and the Frog, for those who don't know, but yes, she's the one who voiced the Queen, and yeah, that ending with Eric Killmonger standing in the museum, same way as the opening of Black Panther, is just the way that they tied this together. Just it gave me such a smile.
Yep. Now, the one thing I'll say, like I was kind of hinting towards what I was hoping, just based on the previews of this series, when we got these sequences, I was saying, oh, I would love it if they go out there and put out there the intergalactic Wakandan Empire. That's what I was kind of hoping for, in the sense of where this was going. I was not disappointed by what it was, but I thought, man, are they going to let them do that? Are they going to let them go intergalactic and go the intergalactic Wakandan Empire? Man, I'll tell you what, Ta-Nehisi Coates, when he put that together, that was wild.
I originally thought before they went with the Killmonger route that yes, they were going to save the future, and then we were going to see this intergalactic, this ruling Wakanda, and we were going to go from there. I'm not disappointed by them going the Killmonger route. Again, he is one of my favorite, most relatable Marvel villains. One of the most well-written characters in Marvel. So I'm not mad at them for going back to that route. But yeah, it's not where I was expecting. But hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, so I would say all in all, the series stood at for me, in animation, as an animated series, I would say a kind of a 7.7. Good for what it was. It's, kind of disappointing that that's probably the only thing we do get of it, but I like the idea when you have a civilization like Wakanda, you can always kind of revisit this and kind of make hints towards it. Like if you said, animation style great, voice acting was good. But yeah, I'd put it at a 7.7.
Yeah, leading up until the end, I was sitting at around a 6.5, and then the ending happened, and that did, in my mind, give the overall how they came back and tied everything together, and then tied it to the overarching Black Panther lore. Gave it a little bit of bump. I have it sitting at about a 6.2. Sorry, at a 7.25 right now.
Okay, so yeah, so we're in the sevens at that point, but yeah, it was refreshing. Is this something you have to watch? No, I don't think you have to necessarily watch it, but if you've enjoyed, Black Panther, Wakanda, Wakanda Forever, and you enjoy learning more about the history of Wakanda, yeah, these little vignettes, as David said, like, it's definitely something. If you start watching, I'm pretty sure you're going to appreciate it. It was done very well. They should be proud of it at that point. As I said, unfortunately, we probably are not going to get a follow-up series for this.
So. No. With the slowing down of what Marvel is looking to do going forward, I doubt that anything further will be seen, but this is a good entry.
Yep. So, but all right. That is our kind of breakdown of all 4 episodes of the miniseries Eyes of Wakanda. So we're going to take our next ad break before we start breaking down all these lovely set photos of, from the set of Spider-Man Brand New Day. So, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right. David, you've got all these lovelies pulled up. So, we got hints at the middle of last week that we were going to be getting a Spider-Man costume reveal. And so we were hearing, we were getting ready to start filming. They're going to be filming outside. They're going to want to show it. So they gave us little hints with that. And then I think it was Saturday morning. We got the first look of Tom Holland live action released by the studio of him in costume.
Yeah, so I will start with the live action reveal. There is a little bit of talking in there. I have it muted just for, purposes of not getting any flags or anything like that. But I mean, it's a beautiful opening. We see kind of doing the little warm up, jumping down,
A little
and
bit of Rocky action.
yeah. Then we see Tom Holland turn around, nice and in costume, and I mean, this is just gorgeous. I mean, he's ready, we're ready, and Spider-Man Brand New Day is coming.
Yeah. I love that little bit of musical interlude with it because there's so much within that little bit of vignette that I'm thinking, man, you got a little bit of hope because it's Spider-Man, but it's definitely there's sadness in there. There's a little bit of darkness in there. This is what this movie's going to be. We don't know how far long in the timeline this is separated from No Way Home. Is it really 5 years? Is it going to be longer? Is it going to be shorter than that? It's going to be very interesting to see how long this picks up after No Way Home.
Yeah, and I'm happy with this suit as compared to this suit that we saw at the end of No Way Home. You've got
really?
that just
Okay.
yeah, you it's not as bright as I thought it was going to be because at the last time we saw him that suit had a lot more shine to it.
Fair.
But
It did. The blue definitely.
yeah, the blues definitely popped out, but as it stands right now, just from the set photos I've seen, I'm digging the costume, and I'm gonna wait until I see it more in live action before I give it a final yes or no. I was okay with the original Tom Holland costumes, but I was never like a raging fan of them. I thought the spider was a little bit too small, and it just seemed like they were going for a little bit too much new edge. So for this, it feels more like a traditional. Here's your comic book Spider-Man.
Yep. So let's look at some of the other set photos out there that they have. Yep. So we get some good looks at the web shooters that he's had to create himself. Very
And
interesting choice, putting him on the outside.
Yep, and I also love the detail on the Spider-Man costume itself, the kind of honeycomb look on the blue and everything else. When you really look into it, it looks like there's also some raised embossness on the webbing going throughout the red. So it's a good look with that. Then we get a closer look at the web shooters. Again, the more traditional homemade look with that. Looks
That's
closer
very
to
interesting.
the original web shooter design.
Yep, from the that he was having at that point, based off of his design too. And as you pull up the kind of another one with the full costume setup, as we move on from the web shooters, I would kind of want to look at the front costume of the symbol, and then the back at that point. I think there might have been a few images with that.
Yep. Just a second here.
Because it is definitely not Tobey Maguire Spider-Man this is emulating. I think there's little winks and nods in the sense of I think it's more Toby in the raised kind of webbing around the costume. But that front symbol and that back symbol, that screams to me Andrew Garfield's The Amazing Spider-Man. That was something very cool. Yeah, I think I can blow this up while you're doing it since you're pulling up the show notes. So I got it right here. Nope, didn't want to do that. Let me. So yeah, looking at that back, I love that the symbol like that.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it is just an overall beautiful costume. I like the way that that sits. I'm excited to see it, especially from a down shot, like him jumping off a building and you just seeing the back of that spider. I'm highly looking forward to that.
Yeah. So it's looking good. I mean, the it's still going to be the emoting eyes from what we're understanding. They've been doing a lot of action sequences out there. So, and again, they're not striking these down. These all are still out there at that point, and it's going to be very cool seeing this, and it's impressive that they're jumping ahead because this is the first. I think this is the first Marvel movie for next year, right now,
Yeah.
according to the schedule, because it comes this first before Doomsday. But then we got a nice surprise because we've also juxtaposition a lot of times during these photos. We saw a lot of fighting sequences with the Punisher's special presentation coming out. But during all this, we got a first full-on look at John Bernthal in his new Punisher costume. So,
Yeah, it is absolutely beautiful. Here.
it doesn't go full original stuff, but, that symbol, people are wondering, what are we going to do that symbol? Are we going to get it? You can just pull in the show notes at that point if it's easier.
Here we go.
There we go.
All right.
Time for some punishing. Look at that symbol. Look at that symbol. Let me tell you something, Red.
It makes me just completely smile to see this, to look at this, and
I'll tell you what, he's got traumatic genes. I'm just saying, he's got traumatic genes. If you know, you know.
yeah, that look at that arsenal that he's rocking right there, the symbol painted on.
He's got the beard and he's not retired.
So he is definitely ready for war.
Yeah, and so I know I'd sent you a TikTok video of looks like they've wrapped production on the special presentation, so he'd probably be very shortly heading to, where they're filming Spider-Man Brand New Day, because even though it hasn't been officially. Well, Feige confirmed it. So Bernthal was officially confirmed to be joining Spider-Man Brand New Day. So he's probably getting ready to head over there, if not already on his way to begin filming at that point. So, but man, Brent and I, when we'd originally, talked about not showing the set photos, but these are set photos that will break our no set photos on the show kind of rule because. It's not showing, we didn't show any plot, but we just showed the costume and things like that. I mean, this is exciting, just seeing our next chapter of this and how it's going to play into the lead into Doomsday and Secret Wars,
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man's on his own now. Nobody even remembers who Peter Parker is.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see the direction that they go. At this point in the story, while it's just some odds and ends set photos or some odds and ends stuff, like I said, it's controlled. They know what they're letting be leaked out versus the stuff that they are going to be pulling down almost immediately. You better grab this now because you got about 5 minutes before somebody's lawyer is going to be pulling this away. That they're letting these moments come out to just kind of, tantalize the crowd, give you something to hope for and see. And so I'm excited for where we're going next. And yeah, having the Punisher involved with this, looking at that suit. There's been some other things that have been leaked out there, some practical swinging effects and things like that. I'm just excited.
Yeah, as we all should be. So, but yeah, so that's all our news for this week. So let's head into some listener questions because we got some listener questions and they're gonna lead us into Fact or Fiction. So we also got some 2 Fact or Fiction submissions. So what we got for questions this week?
All right. First question from Amari Daniels. With Secret Wars on the way, when, if at all, do you think the Spider-Man films will pick up on the alien symbiote piece left behind in No Way Home? Or do you think Peter will get it in Battleworld like he did in the comics?
This is going to be the big question, and I don't know how fans are going to react in the sense of if it doesn't happen at that point. I'm glad we're having a movie before we even start delving into the idea of if the alien costume is going to come about. I don't want Brand New Day to introduce the black costume. We need an entire movie with Peter on his own, not getting overpowered, overbuffed, or anything like that. We need to see the street level Peter that we are at. I will be okay. I think we're going to get it in Secret Wars. I do not think we're getting it in Doomsday. I still think we're going to continue with Peter doing it. I think we're going to get it in Secret Wars because he's going to be put in a position where he's going to get it. And so to your point, Omari, I don't think we're going to get it being the alien symbiote from No Way Home, but I think he's going to get the alien symbiote. They may try to shoehorn in like, oh, this is the alien, but like no one else saw it except for the bartenders. Like we're the only ones that are going to know. So, but I do think Secret Wars is some place where they can easily introduce, because again, it leads into so many interesting stories. So, what do you think? Do you think we're gonna get? Are we gonna get the alien black costume in Secret Wars, or do you think we're going further?
I don't think we're going to get the symbiote costume. I do think that we will get a black and white costume, and they will
Oh,
just find another way. I think that they will give us the black and white, but I don't think that
okay.
they will go symbiote. And the reason behind that is because I think that there are too many things to juggle with too many different hands and pockets and everything like that to go full symbiote at this, unless they have already struck a deal and this is going to be a thing, because you can't just do it for 10 minutes of a movie like this. If you're going symbiote, you've got to dive into this. So there's, in it, for that to happen, there's going to be some hands and some pockets. So I don't think we'll get symbiote, but I do think we'll get black and white suit.
We'll just have to see. So that's interesting. All right, so we're on the opposite sides of that one. Okay, that's an interesting
Yep.
take. All right. So yeah. So we'll head into Factor Fictions. So we're gonna hold off. We'll start off. We'll keep those in the back pocket for those other two listeners who did Factor Fictions. So these are the ones from last week. Thanos, or a version of him, will appear in Avengers Doomsday. 58% said fact, 42% said fiction. Number two, we will see the Norn Rad version of Silver Surfer before the end of Avengers Secret Wars. 29% said fact, 71% said fiction, so people are against it. That. All right, Tom Holland, number three. Tom Holland will ruin something related to Spider-Man Brand New Day before the Super Bowl ad. 50-50 split. They are not sure.
Wow.
They are not
A,
sure
a lot of trust
about
in
that
Tom
one.
Holland.
There's something there. There's something there at that point.
Yeah. Either
Some,
you
some,
know
some,
that,
are some of them are hoping that he's learned his lesson.
either you think he's learned his lesson, or you think that Marvel has a trained sniper on him at all times. That's really why John Bernthal is there, to keep him from snitching on the plot.
All right. All right, so all my Factor Fictions this week are Spider-Man Brand New Day related. So, first one. Mayor Fisk will be either mentioned or seen via a newspaper article and or on a TV in Spider-Man Brand New Day, but it will not be brand new footage. This will be repurposed footage from more, I'll just call it the repurposed footage from Daredevil Born Again.
I am going to go fact on that. I think that they may use his press conference where he mentions the spider and we don't get him by name, and that may be playing in the background somewhere.
Yeah, I think it still plays into that deal, and even D'Onofrio says it as well. It's tied up in certain kind of things that they can and can't do with the character, but this may be a loophole that they could do and still acknowledge the existence of Fisk until they kind of hammer out how they really want to bring in Fisk into the movies at that point. I am of the caliber that we will see Vincent D'Onofrio on the big screen as Wilson Fisk. He will not be just kept on a Disney Plus show. I mean, Kingpin's just way too big of a character. They can come to some sort of understanding. I have full confidence in that. They're just waiting for it. But I think to go an entire movie and not have some sort of acknowledgement of what's going on in New York at that point, I think that's that just seems silly, you know.
Yeah.
All right, Hulk will remember who Peter is, but Bruce Banner will not. Spider-Man Brand New Day. This is a pull directly from the comics.
I am going to say fact on that, and that is damn. That's a good one. Yeah, no, I now want that. I didn't even think of that being a possibility, but man, do I want that?
Yep. And in the comics, I can't remember what issue it was, but yeah, because Peter's very surprised in Spider-Man costume when he's Hulk, and Hulk remembers him, and he's like, "Wait, like, how do you know who I am?" Like, and he's like, "Hulk's not, Hulk basically is not dumb. Like, he wouldn't forget Peter at that point, and it's Hulk's different." But yeah, Bruce won't remember him. Hulk will though. So I thought that was interesting. So pull that from the comics. And my last one, little cheekiness here. The Punisher will verbally refer back to Daredevil or Matt Murdock in Spider-Man Brand New Day.
How linear are we going here? Are we going
Oh,
a guy in Hell's Kitchen, or are we saying Matt Murdock's name?
I'm just saying referring back. I'm just saying some reference.
Then
the
I
Punisher
will.
is going to make some reference to Matt or Daredevil or both. Now remember,
I will say fact.
We do know that Peter, from No Way Home, he was his lawyer. But I would love it more. I don't want to reference Matt. I want more of a Daredevil reference than to do Matt.
I think we will get a Daredevil reference rather than a Matt reference, and I can see it being something along the lines of him being just as crazy as that other guy in red from Hell's Kitchen.
I got a guy. I'm gonna call him Red. I'm gonna call you Red Junior. So,
what is it with you want to be heroes in red or something like that?
I don't have time for your. Oh gosh, just dealing with someone not an adult in Frank's mind, So
yeah.
But yeah, so we've got two more from the listeners. So what are those?
All right, from Braden, Factor Fiction, Scorpion will be the MCU Venom in a future Spider-Man movie.
That is one of my least favorite in people who have taken the Spider-Man. That's gonna be the alien costume, Venom costume over. I do not like that. I really, really disliked that run of that. So the problem. I'm not saying it's. I know he's saying like it could happen one day. Yeah, I mean anything could happen one day. I don't think Scorpion is going to be I mean rumors are that based from the trades that I forget the actor's name. The actor's name escaped me, but he portrayed in the credit sequence of Homecoming as Scorpion as Matt Gargan. So he's doing his role, and it. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm still I'm 50-50 whether Scorpion's going to be a one and done very quickly in the movie, or it's just going to be, or he's not going to be the lead villain of the movie, but kind of be like part of some villain crew at that point, and have a much longer sequence. So I don't know. I don't want it because I think. You don't necessarily have to have Eddie Brock with Venom, but it's just so synonymous with the character to not do Eddie Brock as the first Venom in the MCU just feels like no, we do need the MCU to kind of do their version. I don't want it. The heart's not. I'm going to go with my heart on that one. I'm going to say fiction.
I am going to have to go the same route with that being fiction. I think that if you're going to do Venom, there's really only two options. You got Eddie Brock and you've got Flash. And considering we already have Flash in this MCU who does not come off as anyways credible as Venom, then that just leaves you with Eddie Brock. So, I mean, if you're not going to do Eddie, then I don't I think it just creates too much if you try and shoehorn in Scorpion at this point.
Yeah. So, and what's our last one for Fact or Fiction?
Okay, from Anthony Dorsey. Fact or Fiction, Punisher will say, "Let me tell you something," in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Oh, that.
Let me tell you something, Red. Let me tell you something, Red Junior. Let me tell you something, Red Underoos. Yeah. I mean, come on, it's just there. Of course,
Yeah.
I agree with you, Anthony. Yes, fact.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yep.
It's definitely happening. There's no way around that.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to be putting all 5 of those out there on Sunday afternoon. So let your voices be heard on that, and let us conclude this episode of Marvel Alliance with Fantastic Four life story. Hey, guess what? We're still waiting for Galactus. Imagine that. So, David, are we finally going to meet Galactus? Are we finally confronting this? Is this long, basic trod trying to get to Galactus, saying, "Hey, guess what? Galactus is becoming the boy who cries wolf." Is this finally happening? Did it finally happen?
It took almost 50 years, but this starts off with 4 years, 3 months, and 28 days away from Galactus Day. He is coming. So, again, this section of Fantastic Four Life Stories takes place in the 2000s. Every book so far has centered around the perspective of a character. This time we are getting Franklin Richards, who you forget with the time jumps that he is now a grown-ass man. Like, I forget you swipe to the second page and I'm like, wait a minute, I thought Johnny was dead. Nope, that's right. Franklin's in his 30s at this point.
Especially, yeah, it was like we said, every one of them has had some sort of focal point, and I enjoyed, especially the growth of Franklin as we've seen. Especially, this is his more like he's seen a lot, and his thinking is grown and is more understanding and more reflective of the choices that have been made around him from his family.
Yeah, he also has a different view of his father. Like he sees that, yes, dad has this singular vision, but he's also still my dad. He goes back to their time looking up at the stars and things like that. Everyone's back together now. Sue's part of the group, and Reed is still focused on connecting with Galactus. He's trying to connect his mind to him, reach out to him. And again, this is years later, still his singular thoughts. And while they're in the Baxter building, some alarms go off, and Silver Surfer's just chilling, legs crossed, hand on his head, just hanging out in the Baxter building, like, yo, hope you don't mind if I let myself in.
I want to mention beforehand, I like it how basically the world has basically gone into like inaction. They just don't care because they this lowly countdown to Galactus Day, 4 years, 3 months, 28 days. Man, it's just no one wants to do anything. It just has resulted in itself. Well, Silver Surfer took out all our defenses, so what's the point anymore? We're just gonna mope around for 4 years. Man, what a terrible world to live in. I I don't know what's worse, right
Yeah.
now. But it kind of made me chuckle a little bit. But yeah, you're right. Like you said, Silver Surfer just sitting there chilling, and he kind of gives him his history, which doesn't make any kind of alterations at that point. But however, he does bring an interesting revelation about how Reed can save this world from Galactus.
Yeah. Once again, Galactus has requests, and the price is too high. This this time though, it is Reed is going to become the new Herald of Galactus. His mental connection to Galactus is something that they're seeking out, and
But why
that
is the question? Why is this, what's happening to the Silver Surfer?
yeah. And it talks about how the power cosmic is fueled by the concentrated energy of the universe and all the forces in the universe, and none more concentrated than the power of consciousness. So Reed's singular focus is the whole reason why Galactus is here. So You would think that he was Tony Stark the way he's creating his own villains.
Yeah. But also, the Silver Surfer admitted that he is dying.
Yeah.
Which, I, when he said that, I was like, okay, but it's never explained why. You know, is it because the power cosmic is finally overtaking him and things like that? Like, it's never really explained. I mean, there was a whole, series outside of this timeline where the Silver Surfer was, corrupted and a virus was taking over and things like that. But it never is just say, oh, I'm just dying. I was like, how though? You
Yeah.
literally, as I said, it's like you have the power cosmic. You're immortal now.
It's like I'm old. That was a couple of millennia ago when I made that agreement. I'm like, yeah, I get that, but here you still look fit and 20. Yeah, you're covered in silver, but I mean, you don't look old by any means, and you just destroyed all of the world's defenses. Like you're not really slagging off here, my guy.
And I will say this: I do really like the Fantastic Four costumes, the updates they did for this era. I do really like them.
Yeah, yeah. I like this same with the black on it and the embossed Fantastic Four logo.
So, we knew, Franklin got married. I don't think did we really understand like who he married. Like we saw who he married, but we didn't know the relationship at this point. And apparently, he married a Wakandan.
Yes, he not only married a Wakandan, but according to his children, that is Uncle T'Challa.
He
So
married T'Challa's sister.
I'm just like, oh wow, that is something. He's just walking in and out of Wakanda. He's got these black kids with blonde hair, and yeah, he is now a part of the Wakandan royal family. He's got dual citizenship within New York and the African nation, and
Do they call him colonizer though?
from the looks of it, though, it seems that in this movement towards we're all going to end, the way that they put Wakanda as the Union of African States makes me wonder if all of Africa came under the Wakandan banner and was like, look, we're going to die anyway, so we want to be with you guys in your technology.
Yeah. So, and especially it gives Franklin a way to control and use his powers that his parents had kind of put blocks on at that point because he's an Omega level mutant. But yeah, I love Doom and Silver Surfer meeting and trying to strike a deal with that.
Yeah, Doom offers to become the Herald himself. Says that
big
he
surprise.
he will take on that burden. He will groom the world, and he will have them ready for a galactic. Like you spare, and I will make sure that you get all the consciousness you want. I will do what it takes. We can enslave and have your people ready. Like just let me rule and don't blow anything up.
Yeah. And but yeah, then we kind of flash to Reed and Sue reconciling, and they spend one last time at the Runaway Bar because it's going to close up because their bartender wants to spend time with his family in those last few months, and so Galactus Day hits, and they're all waiting, and the Silver Surfer says, "Hey, it's time to make a decision," and Reed says, "Yep, I'm going to do it." And he's going to make that sacrifice finally. And Galactus says, "All right, fine, I'm done with you. I'm getting my new Herald. Bye."
Yeah,
Takes away his powers. I was like,
it's like
well,
death is your reward. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
take it down. But Reed goes up and says, "I'm ready. I'm ready for you." But it ends up not being Reed. It is Franklin that somehow it gets masked, and Franklin puts out his powers at that point to try to take down Galactus at full strength.
Yeah, Franklin's having his show off moment. He's unleashing that psionic energy, and he's going toe to toe. And then the rest of the Fantastic Four jump in. Things out here throwing a space punch, guided through by Sue, commanding everyone in her force field bubbles so that they can breathe in space. It's it's an interesting fight, and Galactus is like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, and so he's channeling using Reed too because they have a strong connection to each other, him and Galactus, and he tells Reed he can do this, and he tells his son go full power, and they're able to take down Galactus, with also a thing helping with his punch because why not? But the cost is great because Reed ends up basically going comatose, permanently
Yeah.
in a vegetative state as a result. As they say, like in Latveria's on the move. We see the Fantastic Four kind of gather at Johnny's grave, and we're left at, I think the next one's the last issue, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, next one's last issue, and we're getting this confrontation with Doom, and like I said, the Fantastic Four don't have a lot of main villains. You think Galactus, you think mainly Doom, and Doom's kind of been in the background this time, but it's been so much on Galactus, and again, it's cool that they finally confront him. It's cool they do it, but it's just, it just felt like, oh, about darn time.
Yeah.
It wasn't really too satisfying. It was anticlimactic, I'd say at best.
Yeah,
And
they have a little run in and a psionic exchange and then a punch by thing and boom, we're done. And I'm like, oh, cool. We built all of this up for 2 pages of a battle.
no. We built this up since issue 1. We've gone 5 issues to finally get to this moment, and it's like, well, that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Now that seemed to be, again, but like the character development throughout the issues was interesting. I will say this: the character development through the focus on the characters and seeing the world through their eyes and decades has been interesting. But just as overarching, Galactus is coming, and then the whole countdown to you're gonna have to wait 10 more years. Oh, for crying out loud!
Yeah. It's been a hustle getting along with everything that they've been counting down to, and now we're going into our final arc with the remaining aspects of the Fantastic Four. Even though one of them's in a vegetated state, the rest of them are probably in their 70s by this point, but hey, we are trudging along.
Yep. So, but all right. So we will conclude our comic book club looking at Fantastic Four Life Story next week. And we have come to the end of volume 269. So, again, great episodes to talk about with Eyes of Wakanda, the set photos. So lots of great stuff. So, as always, want to thank Panel Bound Comics for being our official sponsor. Remember, use that code MarvelGUA at checkout. I know I've got to change it. It says organic price books there. I've got to change that. Panelboundcomics.com. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order, or use the code MGUASIT for 5% off to get 4 or more books shipped together. David, how can they follow you?
You can follow me on all the socials at the Phantom. That is with a 0, not an O. You can follow me here on the Geekverse Network. Not only on this show, but also on the wrestling show, The Gimmick, where me, Travis Snell, and S-Bubs talk all things wrestling. Last week we had
a busy weekend last weekend.
Yes, we had a busy weekend with a lot of wrestling, a lot of shows, and finishing up SummerSlam. We are going to be coming back with another My GM mode. We've got some more wrestling coming up at the end of the month that we're looking forward to. So, yeah, we have been stepping our game up. We were appearing, once every 2 to 3 months. And now we're appearing 2 to 3 times a month. So lots going on in the stratosphere and lots of news happening, and we are here to bring it to you. So if you're into wrestling, check us out on The Gimmick.
Yep. And you can follow me on all the socials at Chris Balga. Check me out every single week on the Brave and the Boys YouTube channel on Saturday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the now rebranded Panel Bound Comics Weekly Buyer's Guide. That'll be our first rebranding. We did a little clickbait saying the end of the OPB Weekly Buyer's Guide. Yes, we were being cheeky with that. But yes, the Panel Bound Comics Weekly Buyer's Guide on the Brave and the Boys channel, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday. Check that out. And you can follow this podcast on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can follow you can email the show at Marvel Alliance gmail.com. You can also follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback. DMs are open across the board. Continue to rate and review the app on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. I want to thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, David, post-credits discussion tonight. What do you got?
Okay, so I've titled our post-credit discussion "So Many Villains," and my question is, will Spider-Man: Brand New Day have its own Sinister Six? So, Daniel RPK posted that some of the villains in Spider-Man: Brand New Day are Tombstone, Tarantula, Boomerang, Scorpion, and Ramrod, who is a half cyborg. And then he goes on to post again saying there are more villains in Spider-Man: Brand New Day that have not been announced yet. So we have had rumors of Mr. Negative. We've had rumors of some others. So I'm wondering, do you think we're getting a Sinister Six, or is this going to be just a cameo field, if you know who's in the background type deal?
If some of these I could be okay with being part of a Sinister Six at that point. Some of them absolutely not. They are cannon fodder. Unfortunately, based on sources putting out there and sources that have been talking to me, I no longer confident that unfortunately, I do not think Mr. Negative will be in Brand New Day. Unfortunate as it is, doesn't mean it's not. Doesn't mean we can't have him. But it sounds like right now, Mr. Negative doesn't seem to be in the cards for right now for Brand New Day. Tombstone. I mean, we've seen some good stuff with Tombstone in a Friendly Neighborhood. Scorpion, again, for outside of the Venom thing, Matt Gargan is a good villain, but not one that I could see. You know, Tombstone's more definitely brains and brawn at that point. Scorpion's an enforcer, you know, brawn, not much in brains. Tarantula, it's an interesting character. Fly by Nights, D-list villain for Spider-Man. Boomerang, F-listing. I'm sorry. Boomerang, dumb. Ramrod. I hear Ramrod. You know who I also think? I think Razor Fist. F. Boomerang, Tarantula, Ramrod. I say those are cannon fodder. Sinister Six has some illustrious nature to it in the sense of who makes up. There's been different incarnations of it, but there's just something of a Doc Ock, a Mysterio, Craven. You know, like I said, I could stomach a Scorpion, a Tombstone, or something like that. But like, if that whole with Ramrod and Boomerang and Tarantula being on a Secret Six, it's like, no, Secret Six needs to have some really hard hitting things. Because I just remember even in Big Time with the Gauntlet and things like that, like. There are so many cool ways of that Sinister Six being in so many different areas. That's like one of those great rogue groups that you always look forward to when they come because they're always going to put Spider-Man through the test. I'm not saying these are, but again, Boomerang, Tarantula, Ramrod, that's cannon fodder for Spider-Man. That's going to be a quick one and you're done. And I hope when he webs them up at that point, Frank pot shots him, and we're done with Boomerang, we're done with Tarantula, and we're done with Ramrod at that point. Sorry, Clay. Boomerang's going down. He's going down hard.
Yeah, they're releasing all these names, and none of them get me excited outside of Tombstone and Scorpion. Scorpion, we already knew about. Tombstone, okay, that's new. Everyone else, I have a feeling this is going to be one of those montage beat 'em up scenes. Hey, this is what Spider-Man's been up to, and if you know, stop and pause moments of, oh hey, that's supposed to be that guy, oh hey, that's supposed to be this person.
There he goes, dead now.
Yep. And then one of them might catch a sniper bullet from a guy with a skull on his chest. So
yeah, we'll call him Captain Boomerang knockoff at that point. Discount Captain Boomerang, right?
Yeah. I mean, now the advantage of Tombstone is maybe this is a situation where Frank tries to take somebody out and his shot is unsuccessful, and him and Spider-Man start fighting because he's like, hey, you can't kill people, but he's not dead because he
I
survives
don't
the
have
shot.
time for your.
So, that's really the only advantage there. But yeah, I don't see this being a Sinister Six. I do wonder, why are we releasing all these names if they're not going to be major players?
I think I don't mind them releasing these names just because again it's building the universe, which is begging my question: how much time has gone since No Way Home? So I'm okay with them pulling out, and I think the reason they're saying these things and not and putting these out there is because they aren't the real threat. They're going to be quick hits. I like I said, I think the only exceptions could be Tombstone and Scorpion, but even then, it's they still haven't really gone on the idea of like what this movie is going to be focused on and about.
I mean, technically, Vulture and Morbius are still out there. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Just
just saying. But I think, they deserve a better class of villain, and someone's going to give it to them. Just not Boomerang, or Ramrod, or Tarantula.
not at
Tombstone
all.
maybe. Scorpion, no. So, but we will see. I think a Secret Six is going to happen in the MCU and Spider-Man. Could be Brand New Day. Could be at post Secret Wars. We're just gonna have to see. So where we're gonna talk about, we'll talk about on the maybe on the next Marvel Alliance or in a future Marvel Alliance. So hope you all have a good weekend. Thanks for staying with us, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
See ya.